The pact was made in silence. 2 children, 1 promise, and a shadow that listened. The twins had always been inseparable, finishing each other's sentences, sharing the same dreams, waking from the same nightmares at the exact same moment. In the village, people whispered that their bond was unnatural. In the forest, something older heard it and answered. They did not summon Dracula with candles or chants. They did not call his name aloud. They only wished. On a night when the moon hung low and red, the twins stood at the edge of the woods and made a promise they did not understand. To never be alone, to never be afraid, to never be powerless again. The darkness accepted. From that moment on, the village began to change. Animals fled. Mirrors cracked without reason. And the twins started to smile at things no one else could see. Dracula did not take them that night. He waited, because pacts made by children are the easiest to collect, and the most devastating when the price finally comes due. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss our cinematic stories of suspense and horror. The twins were born just before dawn, in the final hour when night refuses to loosen its grip. The midwife later swore that neither child cried at first. They only stared wide-eyed, calm, as if listening to something no one else could hear. Elena and Tomas. That was what their mother named them, though the villagers would come to call them something else entirely. The same. From the beginning, they moved as one. When Elena slept, Tomas slept. When Tomas woke screaming from a nightmare, Elena would already be sitting up, her hand reaching blindly across the darkness to find him. They learned to walk on the same day, fell on the same stones, laughed at the same empty corners of the room. Their parents told themselves it was coincidence. Twins were strange, after all, but the village noticed other things. They noticed how the twins never played with the other children, how games bored them unless they could invent their own rules. Rules only they seemed to understand. They noticed how animals avoided them, how dogs lowered their heads and whined when the twins passed, how birds scattered suddenly from branches when Elena and Tomas stopped beneath them. Most unsettling of all was how the twins spoke when they thought no one was listening. They whispered, not each other, but into the space between them. Their home stood at the edge of the village, closest to the forest. Beyond their back fence, the trees rose thick and old, their branches interlocking like fingers in prayer. The elders said the forest had been there before the village, before the church, before memory itself. The twins were drawn to it. At sunset, when the sky burned orange and red, Elena and Tomas would sit on the fence and watch the shadows lengthen between the trees. They never crossed the boundary. Not yet, but they watched with an intensity that made their mother's chest tighten. "What are you looking at?" she asked once. Elena smiled without turning her head. "Tomas," she said. Tomas smiled too. "Elena," he replied. Their answers meant nothing. And everything. That winter was hard. Food ran thin. Their father grew quiet and bitter. Their mother prayed more often, lighting candles that burned down to nothing while her worries remained. The village itself seemed to shrink beneath the weight of cold and hunger. And the twins began to understand something the adults did not. Fear. They felt it everywhere in whispered arguments, in the way doors were barred earlier each night, in the way people avoided the forest as if it might notice them back. Fear pressed into the twins like an unwanted companion, and they hated it. One night, during a storm that rattled the windows and made the forest groan, Tomas woke Elena by gripping her wrist. "He's listening," Tomas whispered. Elena did not ask who. She nodded. The wind howled outside, forcing its way through the cracks in the house, carrying with it a sound that might have been leaves or might have been breath. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," Elena said softly. "Neither do I," Tomas replied. The words felt heavier than they should have, as if they had been waiting to be spoken. The storm worsened. Candlelight flickered wildly, throwing long shadows across the walls. For a moment, one shadow seemed taller than the others, too tall, too still. The twins did not scream. They held hands. "I wish we were stronger," Tomas whispered. "I wish we were never alone," Elena added. The air in the room changed. Not colder, quieter. The storm outside faded into something distant, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The shadows along the walls deepened, gathering in the corners like ink soaking into cloth. Then came the voice. It did not echo. It did not demand. It spoke gently, intimately, as though it had always belonged there. Children should never be afraid, it murmured, and those who wish together are heard. Elena's heart raced, but she did not pull away. Tomas squeezed her hand harder. "Who are you?" Tomas asked. The shadows stirred. "A friend," the voice replied, "and a keeper of promises." The twins exchanged a glance. In that look past everything they had ever shared, every fear, every dream, every silent understanding. "We'll do anything," Elena said. The shadows smiled. "Be careful," the voice warned, though there was no kindness in it. Pacts made in innocence are the most binding of all. Outside, the forest creaked as if bowing. And somewhere deep within the dark, Dracula listened, pleased, patient, already counting the price. The morning after the storm, the twins woke to a world that felt subtly rearranged. Nothing was different, and yet everything was. Elena noticed it first. The fear that usually greeted her upon opening her eyes was gone. The familiar tightness in her chest. The quiet dread that pressed in whenever she thought about the forest or the whispers of the village had vanished as completely as the storm clouds from the night before. Tomas felt it too. They did not speak of the voice. Not aloud. Some understandings were too delicate for sound. But as they sat across from each other at the breakfast table, their eyes met, and in that shared look was a question already answered. It hurt us. Their parents noticed changes immediately, though they could not name them. The twins were calmer. Too calm. Where once Tomas startled easily and Elena clung to her mother's skirts, now they moved with quiet certainty, their steps measured, their expressions unreadable. They ate little, slept less, and yet seemed more awake than ever before. "Are you feeling well?" their mother asked, pressing the back of her hand to Elena's forehead. Elena smiled, better than ever. The word sent a chill through the room, though no one could say why. Outside, the village stirred uneasily. Chickens were found slaughtered without a mark on them. Milk curdled overnight. Mirrors reflected faces a moment too late. People whispered of bad omens, of the forest breathing closer to the village than it ever had before. And the twins began to receive their gifts. It started small. Elena could sense when someone was about to enter a room. Tomas knew which paths through the village would be empty before stepping onto them. They finished each other's thoughts not as children playing a game, but as if sharing a single, expanding mind. At night, the whispers returned. Not loud, never commanding, just guidance. This way, not yet, watch. Sometimes the voice spoke only to Elena, sometimes only to Tomas. But the message always reached both. The shadows in their room grew longer, thicker, as though darkness itself had chosen to linger. On the third night, Tomas woke to find the window open. Cold air poured in, carrying the scent of damp earth and old leaves. The forest loomed beyond the glass, black and waiting. At the window's edge stood a shape darker than the night itself, not fully formed, not fully absent. Red eyes opened within the shadow. Tomas did not scream. "Are you him?" Tomas asked. The shape inclined its head. "Names are fragile things," the voice whispered. "But yes, you may call me Dracula." Elena stirred beside him, waking instantly. She saw the eyes. She felt no fear. "You said you were a friend." Elena said. "I am," Dracula replied. "Friends give gifts." "What do you want?" Tomas asked. The shadows thickened, curling like smoke. "Only what you have already promised," Dracula said gently. "Togetherness, loyalty, and time." Before the twins could respond, the shape withdrew, dissolving into the darkness beyond the window. The night closed and again, ordinary and quiet. But the forest was closer now. In the days that followed, the village began to notice. Children avoided the twins. Adults crossed themselves when Elena and Tomas passed. A man swore he saw the twins standing in two places at once. A woman claimed Elena spoke to her dead husband in a voice not her own. The priest visited their home. He asked questions that went unanswered. He prayed words that fell flat against the walls. When he left, his hands shook, and he would not meet the twins' eyes. That night, Dracula returned. This time, he did not hide. He stood at the edge of the forest, tall and unmistakable beneath the moon. His form was sharp and elegant, his presence absolute. The twins stood at the fence, their breath fogging the cold air. "You said we'd never be afraid again," Tomas said. Dracula smiled, a thin, knowing curve of the lips. "And you are not." Elena swallowed. "They're afraid of us." "Power often frightens those without it," Dracula replied. "But fear is a small price to pay for what you are becoming." "What are we becoming?" Elena asked. Dracula's red eyes glinted. "More." The word echoed in their minds long after he vanished. That night, the twins dreamed the same dream. They stood deep within the forest, roots wrapping around their ankles like hands. The trees bent inward, listening. And at the center of it all stood Dracula, patient and smiling. When they woke, dirt stained their feet. And outside, the village bell rang, calling everyone to gather. Another child was missing. The village square filled before the bell finished ringing. Mothers clutched children too tightly. Fathers stood in rigid clusters, eyes scanning the edges of the forest, as if expecting it to step forward on its own. The priest held the missing child's cap in his hands, twisting it slowly, his lips moving in silent prayer. Elena and Tomas arrived together. The moment they did, the murmurs shifted. People moved away from them, without realizing they were doing it. A small circle of empty space formed, subtle but unmistakable. The twins felt it like a pressure change, noticed it, understood it, dismissed it. They already knew who was missing. A boy named Merrick, 7 years old, curious, always wandering too close to the woods. Elena tilted her head slightly, listening, not to the villagers, but beneath them, beneath the fear, beneath the noise. The forest was restless. "He didn't scream," a woman said. "That's what frightens me most." "No tracks," another replied. "It's like he stepped into the shadows and disappeared." The priest's gaze finally settled on the twins. His eyes lingered too long, heavy with something between suspicion and terror. "We must pray," he said loudly. "Darkness feeds on fear. We must not invite it further." At that, Tomas felt a flicker, small, sharp, unfamiliar. Annoyance. That night, the whispers returned stronger than before. Elena lay awake, staring at the ceiling as shadows gathered unnaturally thick along the corners of the room. Tomas sat beside her, already alert. "They blame you," the voice murmured softly. Elena's fingers curled into the blanket. "We didn't take him." "No," Dracula agreed calmly. "But the forest did not act without knowing you." Tomas swallowed. "You said there was a price." The shadows shifted, forming the suggestion of a tall figure near the wall. "Everything has a price," Dracula replied. "You wish to be unafraid. You wish to be strong. Strength reshapes the world around it." Elena's heart thudded. "Is merit part of that price?" Silence followed. Not refusal. Not denial. Understanding bloomed, slow and terrible. "You're using us," Tomas said. Dracula's eyes emerged faintly from the dark, glowing like embers. "I am honoring the pact." He corrected. "The forest answers to me. And now it listens to you." The next morning, Marek's body was found at the tree line. Unmarked, pale, peaceful as if asleep. The village broke. Grief turned sharp, cutting in all directions. Whispers became accusations. Eyes followed the twins wherever they went. Someone carved symbols into their fence overnight. Someone else spat at their feet. Their parents argued in hushed voices behind closed doors. Fear eroding love piece by piece. "You feel it too, don't you?" Tomas whispered to Elena as they stood near the forest later that day. She nodded. "It's easier now." It was a terrifying truth. The guilt was there, but distant, muted, as though wrapped in layers of shadow that dulled its edges. The forest hummed softly, approvingly, when they stepped closer. Dracula appeared at dusk. This time, he stood fully revealed beneath the dying light. Tall, elegant, ancient. His presence bent the air around him, made the forest bow. "You let this happen," Elena said, though her voice did not shake. Dracula studied her with interest. And yet you remain. Tomas clenched his fists. Make it stop. Dracula smiled faintly. You misunderstand. This is only the beginning. He gestured toward the village. Fear is a current. Once it flows, it carries many things with it. What do you want from us? Elena asked. Dracula stepped closer, lowering his voice. To see how far you will go to protect what you ask for. That night, the twins dreamed again. But this time the dream split. Elena saw the village burning. Not with fire, but with shadow, people running from shapes they could not name. Tomas saw himself standing alone at the forest's heart. Roots wrapping around him, holding him in place as Dracula watched. They woke screaming, together. For the first time since the Pact, fear returned. And in the darkness, Dracula smiled. Because fear, once tasted again, makes the price far easier to collect. Fear changed the village faster than any storm ever had. By morning, the twins' home was marked. Charcoal symbols stained the door. Branches from a forest, twisted and dead, were piled at the fence like warnings. No one claimed responsibility, yet everyone knew who had done it. Fear no longer hid behind politeness. It stared openly now. Elena felt it before she saw it. The air itself had grown sharp, heavy with accusation. They think we did it, Tomas said quietly. They think we invited it, Elena replied. From behind the curtains, their mother watched the square fill again. This time, there was no bell, no prayer, only voices, angry, trembling, desperate. He came back because of them. The twins. I told you they were wrong. Their father stepped outside before anyone could stop him. He raised his hands, his voice cracking as he tried to speak sense into a crowd that no longer wanted it. They are children, he pleaded. My children. A stone struck the dirt near his feet. Another followed. Elena felt something twist inside her, not fear, but a cold, rising certainty. They'll hurt him, Tomas said. Before Elena could respond, the shadows lengthened unnaturally. The forest exhaled. Dracula stood at its edge. Only the twins noticed him at first. He did not advance. He did not threaten. He simply watched the village with mild, detached interest, like a man observing ants scatter when their hill collapses. You see now, his voice whispered within them. Fear seeks a shape, a name, a sacrifice. Elena's nails dug into her palms. You promised we wouldn't be powerless. Dracula's lips curved slightly. And you are not. The crowd surged closer to their father. Words became shouts. Shouts became hands. That was when Tomas stepped forward. He did not scream. He did not threaten. He only looked at the men closest to him, and the forest answered. The wind rose suddenly, howling through the square. Torches flickered and went out. Dogs began to howl and pull at their chains. Shadows spilled where they should not exist, climbing walls and wrapping around ankles. The crowd froze. Elena felt the power surge through her too, dark, intoxicating, terrible. With a thought, she pushed it outward. The ground beneath the villagers' feet trembled just enough to be felt. Leave, Elena said softly. Her voice carried. Not loudly, but completely. The villagers backed away. Some fell to their knees. Others fled. Their father collapsed to the ground, sobbing, while their mother stared at the twins as if seeing them for the first time. That night, no one slept. The priest came alone, clutching a book worn thin with age. He stood at the edge of the twins' property and would not step closer. You've opened a door, he said hoarsely, one that was sealed with blood and prayer. Tomas tilted his head. We didn't open it. The priest's eyes flicked to the forest. Then who did? Dracula watched from between the trees, smiling. After the priest left, the twins confronted him. You enjoyed that, Elena said. Dracula did not deny it. You defended what was yours. They'll come again, Tomas said, with fire, with ropes. Yes, Dracula agreed calmly. Fear always tries again. Elena's voice trembled for the first time. How do we stop this? Dracula stepped closer, his red eyes bright in the darkness. You finish what you began. He explained then, softly, patiently. The village would never stop fearing them. Not after Merrick. Not after what they had shown. Fear would rot the place within, drawing darkness again and again, unless the source was removed. You mean, Tomas hesitated. The village must forget, Dracula said, or be emptied. Silence fell between the twins. Elena's heart pounded. We never asked for this. Dracula's expression softened, almost kindly. Children never do. That night, the dreams returned, stronger, sharper. Elena dreamed of standing alone as smoke rose behind her. Tomas dreamed of holding hands with someone whose face he could not see, walking deeper into the forest. When they woke, dawn had not come, and outside, the villagers were gathering again, this time with torches. Dracula's whisper slid through the dark like a blade. Choose. The torches gathered like a constellation of fear. From the bedroom window, Elena watched their flames sway and multiply, reflected in glassy eyes and clenched jaws. The villagers moved as one now, no longer arguing, no longer uncertain. Fear had finished its work. It had given them purpose. They won't stop, Tomas said behind her. Elena nodded. She could feel it too. The crowd's anger pulsed like a living thing, pushing toward the house, toward the forest, toward the twins at its center. Dracula waited at the tree line. He did not hurry. He never did. Time is different for me, his voice whispered within them. But for you it is nearly gone. Their parents stood in the hallway, holding hands. Their mother's face was pale with a terror that cut Elena deeper than any accusation ever could. Their father tried to speak, to plead, but no words would come. Tomas stepped forward. We can protect you. The promise was instinctive and horrifying how easily it came. Their mother shook her head. Were you? The question broke something fragile inside Elena. You're children, she said softly. We still are. Outside, someone shouted. A stone struck the house. Another followed. Smoke curled upward as a torch was thrown onto the dry grass near the fence. Dracula's presence pressed closer, heavier now. You see, he murmured. Fear always demands an ending. Elena closed her eyes. She remembered the night of the Pact, the storm, the whispers, the promise to never be afraid again. She understood now what Dracula had truly offered them. Not safety, control. What happens if we choose the village? Tomas asked quietly. Dracula did not answer at once. When he did, his voice was honest. Then you will lose what you have become. The forest will turn from you, and fear will find you again. And if we choose you? Elena asked. Dracula's red eyes gleamed. Then you will never belong to them again. The torches were closer now. Faces emerged from the smoke. Neighbors, friends, people who had once smiled at the twins and brought them bread. Fear had hollowed them out, leaving only fury behind. Tomas reached for Elena's hand. He squeezed once, the signal they had used since infancy, together. Elena felt tears burn her eyes. I don't want anyone else to die. Dracula tilted his head. Then do not kill them. The forest stirred. Roots shifted beneath the soil. Shadows gathered, thick and alive. The night itself seemed to inhale. Make them leave, Tomas said. Dracula smiled, not wide, not cruel, satisfied. As you wish. The forest answered. Branches groaned and twisted, forming walls of darkness between the village and the house. The ground trembled, just enough to send people stumbling back. Winds rose, carrying whispers that clawed at the villagers' courage, showing them reflections of their own fear. No blood spilled, no bodies fell, but the message was unmistakable. The forest did not want them. One by one, the villagers fled. Torches dropped. Shouts turned to screams. And then silence. Elena sagged against Tomas, shaking. The power drained from her like breath after a long scream. Their parents stared at them, wordless. Dracula stepped forward at last, emerging fully from the shadows. It is done, he said. Tomas met his gaze. What happens now? Dracula looked past them, toward the village, toward the fragile lights retreating into the distance. Now the village will rot with stories, he replied, and you will no longer be safe among them. Elena's heart clenched. You said we had a choice. You did, Dracula said gently, and you chose. He extended a hand, pale, elegant, impossibly still. Come, he offered. The forest will be your home. You will never be hunted again. Their parents cried out, reaching for them. Elena hesitated. For the first time since the Pact, fear returned fully, sharp and human and painful. She felt it pierce through the power, through the darkness, through everything Dracula had given them. She realized then what the true price was. Not blood, not death, belonging. Tomas stepped forward first. Elena followed. The forest closed around them, roots parting like welcoming arms. Dracula turned away, already leading them deeper into shadow. Behind them, their parents' cries faded. Ahead of them, the forest breathed, ancient, patient, and alive. And Dracula smiled, because the hardest payment is not life. It is choice freely given. The forest swallowed sound, not suddenly, but gently, like water closing over a sinking stone. Elena felt it first. The village noises, the distant shouts, the sobs of their parents, the crackle of dying torches, fell away one by one until only the forest remained. Leaves whispered overhead. Roots shifted beneath their feet. The air smelled of damp earth and something far older. Tomas walked beside her, their hands still linked. His grip was firm, but she felt the tremor beneath it. Dracula moved ahead of them, his silhouette tall and unhurried, as though this path had always been waiting for them. Shadows parted where he passed, bending with unmistakable reverence. You never told us what we would become, Elena said at last. Dracula stopped. He turned slowly, his red eyes softening, not with kindness, but with inevitability. Because names limit what is endless, he replied. They reached a clearing where the trees grew in a perfect circle, their trunks twisted and scarred as if marked by centuries of silent witness. Moonlight poured down to the branches, illuminating stone ruins half buried in roots, remnants of something ancient, something once worshipped and feared. This is where it began, Dracula said, and where it continues. Elena felt a strange pull in her chest, like recognition without memory. The ground hummed beneath her feet. What happens to us now? Tomas asked. Dracula studied them carefully. Now you learn what you asked for, the forest responded. Shadows rose, not threatening, not violent, but alive. They wrapped around the twins' ankles, their wrists, their shoulders, cool and steady. Elena gasped as something inside her shifted, stretching beyond the limits of fear and flesh. She could hear the forest, every root, every creature hiding beneath bark and soil, every memory soaked into the earth. Tomas cried out softly, not in pain, but in awe. I can see them, he whispered. All of them. Every path. Dracula nodded. You are no longer bound to one place. The shadows withdrew, leaving the twins standing unchanged, yet utterly different. Elena touched her chest. Her heart still beat, but slower now, stronger. What about the village? She asked. Dracula's gaze drifted toward the distant glow beyond the trees. They will tell stories, he said. They will warn their children, and fear will keep them away. And our parents? Tomas asked, his voice breaking. For the first time, Dracula hesitated. They will grieve, he said finally, but grief fades. Fear remains. Elena felt tears slide down her cheeks, warm, human, defiant. So that's it? We disappear. Dracula stepped closer, lowering his voice. You are not gone, he said. You are transformed. He knelt before them, his expression solemn, ancient. You were offered power, and you chose to protect. That choice matters. The forest sighed, as if in agreement. You said pacts made by children are the strongest, Elena said. Did we fail you? Dracula smiled, not cruelly, not proudly, respectfully. No, he said. You surprised me. He rose, turning away. That is why you will not belong to me. The word struck harder than any threat. What do you mean? Tomas asked. Dracula paused at the edge of clearing. You belong to forest now, he said, and to each other. With that, he vanished, not dissolving, not fleeing, simply no longer there. The night closed around them. Hours passed, or minutes. Time no longer mattered. When dawn came, It did not touch the clearing. Elena and Tomas stood beneath eternal twilight, listening to a world that no longer feared the dark, because they were part of it. Far away, the village woke to an emptiness that could not be explained. People would swear they saw two figures watching from the trees at sunset. They would say the forest listened differently now, kinder, sharper, and when children whispered fears into the night, sometimes those fears vanished. But sometimes the whisper answered back, not cruel, not kind, protective, because the twins had paid the price, and the forest would never forget their choice. If this story touched your heart, remember, even innocence can shape the darkness. Subscribe, leave a like, and share this story with someone who loves cinematic horror.